Good evening. I will be calling the regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners, March 23, 2023, at 7 p.m. to order. Item number 2, roll call, please, Ms. Jones.
Commissioner Johnson? Present. Commissioner Hall?
Present.
Commissioner Street? Vice Mayor Butler?
Present.
Mayor Anderson?
Present. Item number 3, prayer and pledge. Vice Mayor Butler.
Lord, we're meeting today to conduct matters of business. Guide our hearts and our minds in the spirit of fairness, right thought, and speech. Impart your supreme wisdom upon our activities so that our affairs may reach a successful conclusion. Thank you for being our source of guidance today. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item number 4, approval of the agenda.
Second.
Johnson Butler. Any discussion? Ms. Jones, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Butler?
Aye.
Commissioner Hall?
Aye.
Mayor Anderson?
Aye. Item number 5, citizens' comments.
We have 4 tonight. The first one is Dina Smith.
Hello, my name is Dina Smith. I live at 7105 Harding Court, Fairview, Tennessee. I'm going to speak up because I think it's very important that the people hear what I have to say, and I hope that I can hear the people that up here better too. I have a little hard time. I can hear you fine. I have a little hard time hearing you and you, and so I appreciate it. Thank you so much for hearing me. I am here to ask you, please do not rescind the decision that you made September 2022, Resolution 3122. It's presented on social media as landlocked, and I don't believe that that is a true term. Mr. King owns the property. All he needs is a driveway permit and a mailbox, and the subdivision would probably gladly pitch in and buy a mailbox for him if he would like that. But according to the tax records, he is listed as the property owner, and he is at the end of the street. There is no land surrounding that property. And we would just pray that you would not rescind that. And I ask that you vote, that you do not vote. I'm a little nervous, if you can tell, that you do not vote in favor of Resolution 2023. Thank you very much. And any further conductivity on that road, I think, for the future would definitely be a hindrance to that neighborhood. And that neighborhood is established, it's well established. And I would just love to see this board respect that. I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Linda Ballou.
Hi, I'm Linda Ballou. I live at 7118 Westview Boulevard. I wanted, well, as Dina said, I want to give I've got the legal definition of landlocked. And that is when the property is surrounded by other properties and they have no access to a public road. Mr. King has access to Harding. His address is Harding, and the property is located on Harding, so he can apply for a driveway permit, just like we all have driveway permits. I happen to live on the other end. I lived on the end of the other street, You go all the way down the Westview Boulevard, and I can pull into my driveway. It would be the very same thing. We certainly don't want to keep him from being able to build on his property, but he just needs a driveway permit. And if he had bought, however he got the property, whether he had bought it, it was given to him, it was inherited, or whatever, if it were landlocked, he would not have been allowed to make that transaction because he would have first had to get an easement to be able to access his property. He can access his property. And I know I might run out of time, but I I posted some Facebook posts, and Mayor Anderson commented on one of the threads. I don't know if it was mine. Normally, I do not discuss any items on Facebook. It is best if discussion happens at the Board of Commission meeting so that all the facts are presented and everyone who wants to speak can be heard. However, I'm going to make an exception with this one. The development proposed for the King property adjacent to Daugherty Estates that connects to Harding Drive fell through. The property is not on the market. The Kings asked that the resolution to put up the barrier be rescinded so that property that connects to Harding Drive not be landlocked. We cannot landlock property. Please come out this Thursday night, and I won't read the rest of it. And she said she was always, so that we could, she's always available to speak. And I asked her, are you saying that you will make an exception on Thursday night and allow citizens to speak enter into the discussion about the resolution? And she said she would check with the attorney about that she didn't know if that was allowable. But I believe that Mayor Anderson is the mayor and the chair of this committee, and she can conduct the meetings however she would like. But we cannot be using the term landlocked and spreading that on social media because this property is not landlocked. Okay, I found my legal definition. A landlocked property is a piece of land surrounded by lots owned by others. Because of this, the landlocked property has no legal access to it. The only way to get to the land is by crossing through a neighbor's property. That's not the case here. He has access on Harding Drive. So thank y'all for your time.
Thank you.
Next is Kathy Pring.
Hello.
My name is Kathy Pring. I live at the very beginning of the Daugherty subdivision, 7101 Westview Drive. I came and spoke to you before when we were doing this. Lisa, I believe, and Brandon both voted to close this road at that time. We are still the same neighborhood. I don't believe anybody has left. Nobody has come. We still have weight limits on our drive because the road has already caved in a couple of times. So no heavy vehicles should be on our road, and that's why we didn't want any construction vehicles on there. But tonight I also want to address the fact that if there isn't a development at this time, when we were here before there was one, then it's even more concerning about what you would do with our road. If you open up this road and have no intention of where it's going to go, then I can see in the future that you're going to hook us up to all kinds of different things, maybe even halfway across the city. So we're still a quiet neighborhood, and we don't want that traffic. There could even be 2 openings, as far as I know, on Overby, so that he can exit and enter in 2 different places on Overby if he decides to develop. But I want this property to stay closed. I want this road to stay closed for the benefit of all of the people that live in our neighborhood who already have been living here for years, who vote here, who shop here. We're asking you to keep this road closed. Also, I understand that Leslie wrote a letter, and I don't know who she wrote the letter to and what it's about, but if it's here, I would appreciate it if somebody could read it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lastly tonight, Larry Page.
Good evening. I spoke to you last time, told you I would
If
be
you
back
could just
again.
tell us your name and
I'm
address,
sorry.
please.
I'm Larry Page. I live at 7201 Harding Drive,
Thank you.
2 doors down from the cul-de-sac that we're talking about. I was here last time, and I'm here again to speak up. I did read the resolution, and what you put in there is in the best interest of the citizens. And I'm trying to figure out what citizens you're talking about. 'Cause you're talking about our wonderful neighborhood with all these people here and their quality of life. And what happens when we can no longer walk down the road? Is that a benefit to us? No, it's not. We have a beautiful neighborhood. We have kids who walk to school. You open up that road, their kids will no longer be able to walk to school. We can try to get out of that subdivision. You can see it now during the school year or any time of day. It's very difficult. You open up that road, we'll be sitting there endlessly, especially during school. School traffic backs up all the way past the rec center. So I don't see the benefit here. 2040 plan, I think that's basically a slap in the face to the citizens that came up with that plan, because you're not leaving our existing neighborhood alone. You're ready to destroy it for high-density housing, and we know it. We know you had a plan there a while ago, and we stopped it, and now it's on hold, waiting for us to open this back up so they can go through with it and jam those houses down there. We don't think it's right. It's going to wreck our quality of life. We'll spend nights turning on our lights, wondering about security, quietness. We won't have it anymore. Beautiful little neighborhood. You go down there and you stand and it's quiet. You can get out of there and be downtown Fairview in 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Who wouldn't love that? You get to everything real quick, but yeah, you go down there and it's quiet and peaceful. And you're about to take that all away from us. I hope you vote no, please. Leave us, our little neighborhood, alone and do what you want at the other end on Overby Street. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all tonight.
Okay, thank you. Item number 6, public announcements, awards, and recognition. City events.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just going to announce the first couple. We have the Easter egg hunt at Bowie Park, April 1st. We have a rain day scheduled for April 8th. And then we have the Arts and Crafts Fair scheduled at Bowie Park for May 13th. Thank you.
Item number 7, staff comments and monthly reports. A, police report. Chief Humphreys.
Good afternoon. Cover last month's stats. We were able to, staffing finally moved to 26, which is full staffing. We hope that we can do everything to retain those employees and keep that number for a while. Overtime was still a minimal, down to 9 hours. It's very manageable for us. And like I said, after we get out of the month of January into February, our training schedule really picks up for the year. We were able to increase from 86 to 472 and a half hours. That consisted of firing range, basic in-service, and with the assistance of District Attorney's Office, they came in with 4 different ADAs, covered areas of report writing, search and seizure, domestic violence, and DUI with respect to new laws and best practices. They did that for us this month. You probably have heard that General Helper, the district attorney, she passed away earlier this week. We had that same class scheduled today. We reached out to their staff and said without a doubt we would reschedule our people and do something else, and they still decided to come and do it. They said that was what General Helper would want, so they arrived today and put that class on again. So we are so grateful for their assistance in that. If you know anybody in the district attorney's office, excuse me, please extend your thanks to them for helping us out on that. Next slide. The operational report for the month, the calls of service and self-initiated activity, usually hangs somewhere around the 1,000 call mark. This month was 993, just a shy less of the 1027 last month. Next slide. Our general activity for the month, the few kind of hot topics: arrests were down just a hair from 105 to 77, domestics down to 2, DUIs at 3, drug charges at 21, thefts at 2, citations dipped a little to 121, and we're glad to see traffic accidents lowered to 11, property damage only at 10, and only 1 injury. We hope to keep those numbers down, and that's generally often reminiscent of us getting out there and enforcing the traffic laws. Next. I know that you're probably tired of hearing me talk about fraud, but my detective unit has assured me that it does not slow up. It has been coming on harder and faster than it's ever before. The first one there that's a text message, that is a text message I've received 11 times on my city cell phone this month alone, whether it be Netflix, PayPal, somewhere they've suspended my account and they want me to take some action to reinstate that. The second one is an email to my city email from Jeff Bezos, willing to give me, I think, $124 billion, $1,200 million. While I was sitting here waiting, I looked at my email and got a scam from Walmart that I have a package there to claim and pick up. So it's the city has numerous fail-safes in place, security firewalls, but it still gets through. If that gets through on the city servers and phones, without a doubt that's getting through to the general citizens' electronic devices. So just be mindful. The best way to deal with those are to just not participate at all, delete it, because my detectives will tell you that it's often just a dead-end investigation, that it's some servers that bounce multiple times over to some faraway land that we have no access to. So just be mindful of those citizens that are watching. Please just refrain from those and delete them and move on. In addition, nothing else to report this month. Any questions? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
7B, fire report, Chief Hughes. Welcome.
Mayor, Commissioners, good evening. So the Fairview fire report for February 2023, our calls were up a little bit over last year. We had 104 significant incidents. For the month, we had 10 overlapping incidents, and that's basically like we explain each time. That's when we have a crew either dispatched or on a call, and we get a call for another emergency. We had 3 incidents where fires were extinguished, 1 residential fire in the city, 1 commercial fire in the city, and 1 grass fire. Our average response time from the time we were dispatched to on scene was 4 minutes and 20 seconds. That's up a little bit from last month. That could just be us having to travel out to the interstate more often. We had more calls out there than we did the previous month. Time operating on scene, 21 minutes and 20 seconds. That's up again from last month. And that has to do with a couple of things. Bigger incidents like fire, we're on scene a little bit longer than the standard medical call. But digging into it a little bit, we are also, when we have multiple EMS calls at the same time and we're waiting on ambulances to come into town from other areas, we're on scene a little bit longer than if the ambulance is coming from our station. We had 6 outreach or 6 interactions on 1 outreach event. And then also if any city residents need smoke alarms installed in their home, and that's if you don't have them, your house was prior to codes, we're still part of the state grant and we can install those for you. Just call the station and we'll set up an appointment to come out, and the firefighters on duty will install those for you. Again, to report an emergency, always call 911 first. We still have a lot of people calling the station to report an emergency, and that just slows our response time down. This is the February call breakdown. Again, medical calls is the biggest piece of the pie. And then fires and hazardous conditions. Next. This is our heat map. Again, the red areas around the station that you see, as I explained in the email, Mayor Anderson, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's a call at Bowie Park. We have apartment complexes and stuff that pick up that area, so we have a higher density of people. We run more calls in those areas. As you can see out by the interstate on I-40, near that area, that still continues to grow in size and number of calls each month. Next slide. Our training hours for February, we had 495 training hours. And these are just some of the training evolutions that we ran through. Bye, Keith. That's it. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 7C, City Manager Report.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mayor,
Carter.
Commission. The start of the fence at the playground got delayed this week. It will start on, the vendor says March 27th, and then the playground will be closed for 2 weeks. During that while they're putting that fence up. Also want to give a thank you to Micah Sullivan and Kevin Blackburn for their service to the city. We wish them the best in their future endeavors. I also want to announce that Sarah Toddy has accepted the position as a city engineer and want to welcome her. I also submitted an advertisement for an AICP certified planning director. That is out. Hopefully that will provide results in a speedy manner. That's all I've got tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 8A, minutes from Board of Commissioner meeting, March 2nd, 2023.
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Jones, could you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Johnson? Commissioner Hall?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Butler?
Aye.
Mayor Anderson?
Aye. Motion passes. Johnson Hall, motion passes 4-0. Item number 9, old business. There is no old business tonight. Item number 10, new business. Item 10A, Resolution 17-23, a resolution supporting the submission of an application for assistance to firefighters grant, AFG program, for funding from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, as well as support for the required matching funds from the City of Fairview. Fire Chief Scott Hughes.
Mayor, Commissioners, this resolution is one that we fill out seemingly every year. We put out for the grant, through the federal grant for the Assistance Firefighter Grant. We have not received this grant in many, many years. We are trying to replace our air packs, our SCBAs. NFPA says we must be within two standards. They just released the 2019, which was delayed because of COVID, which puts us outside of the standard. That's not as bad as it sounds. All of our air packs are in compliance. They are flow tested every year and hydro tested every 5 years per what OSHA requires. And then all of our air cylinders are within date. Our packs are the ones that are of the 2002 standard. And the revisions have been 2008, 2013, and now the 2019 has come out. The total grant is for $257,000, and that's federal money. Our matching share would be $12,259 for the city if we receive this grant.
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Johnson, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Johnson? Aye. Commissioner Hall?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Butler?
Aye.
Mayor Anderson?
Aye.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you. Johnson Hall, item passes 4-0. Item 10C, Resolution 2023, a resolution of the City of Fairview to rescind Resolution 31-22 and open Harding Drive Northwest. I'm sorry, did I miss one? Okay, sorry, guys. Let me go back one. Item 10B, Resolution 19-23, a resolution calling for a public hearing on the proposed annexation of territory into the City of Fairview by owner consent with RS40 zoning and approving a plan of services, 7305 Overby Road, 4.9 acres, map 069, parcel 021.00.
Move to approve.
Second.
Is there any discussion on this item? Is there anyone here representing this item?
Yes. My name is Charles Lampley. I'm on the Building and Grounds Committee with the church.
Any discussion on this?
Mayor, Mr. Lampley, is there any planned purpose right now for the church on this property?
Well, right now, none.
No.
Future could be used, the approximately 2 acres of that, acre and a half to 2 acres of it, adjacent to the house, which are 2 separate properties, that could be used for parking lot expansion in the future.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Any other discussion? Ms. Jones, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Hall?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Butler?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson? Aye. Mayor Anderson?
Aye. Item 10B passes 4-0. Hall Butler?
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 10C, Resolution 20-23, a resolution of the City of Fairview to rescind Resolution 31-22 and open Harding Drive Northwest at the existing Stubb Street cul-de-sac to allow for future connectivity. Mayor Anderson. First, I would like to entertain a motion. Yes.
Mr. Patrick, can we ask the property owners questions before we make a motion, or would you rather have the motion first?
I think we need to get it on the table so we can discuss it. So I would advocate making it a first and a second, and then if there's any presentations, one of you can move to suspend the rules with the 3/4 approval. You can then have them come up and ask questions or entertain like that. That would be outside our normal standing rules, so you'll need to waive our standing rules.
2 separate votes to do that? Would you like 2 separate
Oh,
motions?
no, this is just a motion to approve to get it, so we can get it to where we can eventually vote on it. one way or
Correct,
another.
but to have that discussion, can I add that into the same motion?
Needs to be separate.
That's what I was asking. Okay. I'll make a motion to approve, will be my first motion.
Second.
Now we need to have
Okay.
a second motion during,
Now we're at the discussion
Yeah,
phase, so someone.
I'm going to make a motion to suspend the rules to allow citizens to be able to speak on this item.
Correct.
And I
second.
need a motion, or I need a second on that. So I'm the first, Johnson second. Any discussion on that? Ms. Johnson? I'm so sorry. Ms. Jones?
Mayor Anderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Butler,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall.
Aye.
Okay, so if there's anyone here who would like to speak on this item, then you can come forward right now and speak. If you've already spoken, then maybe there's others that would like to add to it.
Could I ask for a point of clarification? Could we let the property owner speak first to tell us what they are foreseeing being done with this property? And then let the discussion from us and the onlookers as well? Because I have some questions myself.
Hello, I'm Troy King. I own the property and being discussed.
Welcome. And your address?
Oh, I live at 10107 Locust Fork Road in Prim Springs, Tennessee.
Thank you.
Any questions?
So the property that's in that triangle on the screen,
Yes, that was my grandfather's that was I inherited. And that piece of property, now that the deal's off the table with anything else, and I understand everybody's concerns and everything, but you can't landlock my lot. I've got 3 different parcels right there that each one needs a access to. As you can see, that's a pretty substantial parcel right there in between any other land. I don't own the land to the back of it, so that's the only thing I've got to get in and out of that piece of property.
all right, so you own a total of 3 parcels in this area?
Yes, I do.
3 parcels?
My mother and father left me another parcel that split into 2.
Keith, do you have those highlighted where we can see those on the map?
The parcel, excuse me, hold on. You'll have to come up to the podium, okay? Just, okay, so if you see parcel 13 and 14, where Harding Road passes by 13 and 14, the barrier, when the property was being developed, which is not being developed now, that's where the barrier was going. So lot 13 and 14, do we know who those lots belong to? Because you see where Harding Road or Drive connects to the triangle that belongs to Mr. King. If the barrier is put up right there, he has no access to that property that he owns right there. And there's 3 parcels. So if they were to sell the parcel that is connected to Overby, and correct me if I'm wrong, if they were to sell the property that's connected to Overby, then they would absolutely be landlocked in between the subdivision and the property that is being sold.
Yes, and there is already I have a driveway already put in. There was a permit. I was given the permit by Fairview to put in a driveway there, and there is a driveway there.
All right. Can I ask another question to Keith? Keith, do you have access to the internet to pull up the other 2 parcels he owns, and you can put it on our screen? as I have it brought up on my phone, but it's not helping everybody that's trying to see it. Mr. Charles Lampley, you own the property just to the left of the triangle? That's what I thought, okay.
So where's your driveway right now?
It's going into that property, right at
Yes.
the very end. If you just drove straight, you'd hit the driveway.
So that's where the barrier was going to be put up?
Yes, ma'am.
is to block your driveway?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's, since I don't know and I wasn't here for the last vote, your current zoning is 1 acre lots, correct?
As far as I know.
When you were brought it, you've not been back to the city and asked for a
No.
smaller to have a subdivision?
No.
She mentioned that, or maybe Ms. Ballou read it, that it's not currently for sale?
No.
It's not, okay. There's no deal on the table?
No,
This is-
sir, not a
You don't
bit.
know something we don't know?
Not a bit.
Okay?
The homes, the construction company that was going to do it, that was looking at it, you know, they bent over backwards. They was going to put red lights in, widen roads, fix roads. You know, they bent over backwards to try to get into this subdivision here that they was wanting to do. You know, and that just, when they met opposition to not having this right here, they backed out, and it, you know, it just fell through, so we don't have anything left to go on here.
Mr. Carter, just to try to clarify for you, directly to the north of the triangle is one of his tracks. And then the track that you see, it says 11.5, that's his third parcel. The third parcel has no access on any road at all, correct?
No.
None
It'd
whatsoever?
have to- No, it has
If you
no,
sold the triangle and the other one, you'd never be able to get to that one.
no, sir.
Or if you sold the other two, you'd never be able to get to the triangle.
No, sir.
Do you have an opinion as the attorney as to, I know you can't fully see the other two, hopefully Keith's going to get that brought up for us here in a minute, but I'm under the impression that we couldn't landlock him either. And Ms. Ballou is correct, currently he's not landlocked, but if he sells his property, if he sells that track on Overby, then both the other two become landlocked.
I agree.
So if that's the case, I don't see how currently we could cut him off to access to his own property.
I agree.
Now, I want everybody in the crowd to know that him accessing his property is no different than y'all accessing y'all's property, and there's no subdivision that's being brought before us. There's no vote to change the zoning on the current property.
Not at all.
If that ever happened 5 years from now, everybody would be back up here again.
Yeah, they can address that then.
If there's if someone comes to purchase the property to put in a subdivision, then we can revisit this and protect, you know, with a vote of the board, protect with some sort of barrier. But right now, there's no subdivision to protect from.
Another point, Ms. Ballou, let me go real quick. Patrick, I think you could clarify this. Even if this passed the board tonight to rescind this, no matter what happens in the future, they're not guaranteed to have access to this road.
No, other than his driveway, which I understand.
If he sold the property, then he loses it. There's nothing that we do tonight that would guarantee the new owner of connecting to that road for a subdivision. It would still have to go start at the planning commission and
Sure,
everything.
they have to come in with a site plan, and they'd have to go through all the steps that you normally do to develop property in the city. So no, there's no automatic connection. If you create a barrier there, though, it could be considered a taking, an illegal taking, and he could seek compensation against the city for it because it would devalue his access. So when I wasn't here for this original, I don't know why it ended up the way it has, but it's clear to me at least that the city shouldn't be blocking his driveway.
let Ms. Palouse speak.
Yes.
Any more?
Let her come up to the microphone, please, sir.
We are not hung up on the word barrier. We just, when we spoke before, and that was put in there, I mean, we didn't have anything to do with the wording of it. We were just at that time told that the subdivision that was being proposed, and I understand it's not now, that they wanted to use our little neighborhood and disrepair streets as an ingress and egress to this new 99 houses. That's the number that was mentioned. We in no way want, I mean, we know we can't, I mean, you don't have to have a barrier. If he's going to have a driveway, it just goes into that triangle. I mean, we know that. We don't have any right, nor would we want to, keep somebody from off their land. But I don't think land in the future that he might sell and landlock is our concern right now. I mean, it seems like that's what I was hearing. If he sold this, something else would be landlocked. He'd just have to give it an easement from his property. It seems like. He is not landlocked, and we don't want him to be landlocked, and it's against the law to be landlocked. And we don't care about a guardrail there. That's not what we care about. We just care about we're not going to build Harding Road on through all of these other properties and have it connect into Overby Road.
Well, that's not what we're asking to be done. We're asking that right now, since there's not a development that is going on and there's no one coming through your subdivision and there's no barrier up right now, we don't want the citizens of Fairview tax dollars to pay for this guardrail barrier when there's no reason to do it.
I don't think any of us
I think we're all on the same page.
We're not
really.
hung up on the word barrier. We don't want to prevent anybody from getting to their land. What was in discussion when we talked about this last year was making this a road through to Overby Road, and that's what we did not want because that would put a lot of traffic through our subdivision. Can this be rescinded without opening this up, that the city can build anything they want to, a four-lane highway?
That would have to come before the planning commission and the board. That's a whole new, that's revisited new, not like what it is now.
Well, am I correct, though, that anything that any property owner sells in the future that's not connected to we wouldn't be required to put in a city road to that, would we, if it was landlocked because they sold it? Y'all mentioned the two smaller lots that Mr. King owns, and if he sold, I don't remember which one, if he sold one, the other one would be landlocked, but that's not the city's responsibility, correct?
Correct. The only thing that, the way I understood it tonight, that it is before us, is that the city does not keep him from having access to his own property.
That's, yes.
And so if we put the barrier up, and like I said, this happened before I was here, but if we did do that, then, like our attorney just told us, that could be rendered arbitrary and capricious, and he could have a claim against us, and that wouldn't be good.
No, we don't want that.
So I think everybody's on the same page.
I do too.
There's not going to be a subdivision right now, and there may never be one. And
Well,
he
we
just
know,
wants.
we know there will be one. I mean, people will be jumping all over that land to develop it, but that's not here nor there right now.
But with us rescinding this tonight, it has nothing to do about anything being approved in the future.
No,
This
and
is
no-
just to keep the city from spending the money and putting up a guardrail.
Just for the guardrail. We're not asking, we're not rescinding the, like a road being put through to his, proposed maybe in the future development. It's just the guardrail blocking his access to his parcel that's in the yellow color.
Okay? If y'all just vote this in, and there is it an understanding then that we're not agreeing to anything else, or can it be stated that you're only agreeing to not put up the barrier?
I don't think it's not just
There's-
an understanding. I think it's law, is it not? Patrick, it would be just, I mean,
If you rescind, you're just taking the barrier away.
But the
and-
barrier's not there anyway. I mean, it
And
never-
that's what I'm saying, the barrier, because
They
I
don't wanna
was
spend the
listening to
money.
Mr. Page, and, I think he's behind. I was listening to Mr. Page, and I think his concern was that we were gonna remove something. You do realize the barrier's not there right now. We're just asking that the barrier not go in right now, and we can revisit this if the development, if some development comes back.
Since this was proposed, 6 or 7 months ago, nobody nobody started the barrier. Was that on the plan to do since it was approved? I mean, nobody started putting up a barrier.
You're right, nobody started putting up a barrier. And that would have been, the board voted, and then the city would have, and there's not many people left.
Under the direction of the
It was
city
a
manager.
different group here then.
I understand.
You know what I'm saying? So they would have had to have said, okay, purchase the barrier, put the barrier up, but that never happened. And in the meantime, this subdivision fell through, and it's not gonna happen. So while Mr. King has a driveway, we just don't want the barrier to go up to block his driveway.
We don't either.
And that's, if anybody has any questions about that, I mean, I think we're all on the same page as far as I'm concerned. Mr. Page?
Well, on the page that we're on, what a pun, huh? Since I'm a page, is that we didn't need a barrier. I don't know where barrier came. What we wanted is our peace and quiet to be peace and quiet. We understand there's going to be expansion. He's going to sell his property, and hopefully to the right developer, a quality developer. And I'm sure in the long run, it'll all help us out. But to have us go have our drive turn into a throughway is the issue that we have. And that was all our issue was back in September.
Well, and that's why the barrier was approved back then, to protect from, construction traffic going through. But now that there's not a development,
All right.
there's not going to be construction
If he's-
traffic going through.
I'm still a little confused on his landlocked property that you're talking about.
See the triangle up there?
I see the
You
triangle.
where Harding Drive dead ends into that triangle? That is his driveway. If a barrier is put up, then he
And his
doesn't
other
have
pieces of
access.
parcels that he owns, you said he owns two
Those
more,
are
correct?
3 separate parcels, so he can't access, the triangle and the other 2 parcels are totally separate.
Totally separate, so he doesn't have anything connecting to that little triangle.
he has one parcel that connects to the triangle, and then he has the other parcel to the north that says 11.5. It does not connect to the triangle, and it does not connect to any road either.
Does the other one,
The other one connects to Overby Road.
okay, so then when he sells that parcel, he's required by law to put up an easement by necessity to have that access to that property.
I don't know that that's the case. Our attorney could speak to that, since that property in the triangle has public access currently. I don't know that he would be required by law to do that, since he already has public access to that property. They couldn't require him to have 2 public accesses, I don't believe.
I don't, with all due respect to the citizen, I don't think that's a correct statement of the law. And I don't even think we need to be talking about the other tracks tonight. The fact is, all this resolution does is frees the city from having to spend money to put a barrier up that's not needed right now. If a developer, if the property is sold at some point, and a developer comes forward with a site plan, then the city would have to decide what to do with Harding Road. I can tell you this, there was not a cul-de-sac there. It dead ends into that lot, which tells me that when it was planned, that neighborhood and street were planned, interconnection was,
It is a cul-de-sac.
well, it doesn't look like a cul-de-sac from what I'm looking
It
at.
is a complete circle cul-de-sac.
Okay, well, then this, I stand corrected. The city will then have to take that when that site plan is proposed, and they'll have to decide what to do with it then. But it'd be improper for the city to try to make a decision now on something that may not ever be a problem, or may be a problem 5 years from now. That needs to be decided then, and not tonight. We can't block him from his driveway.
And not
I can tell
only
you
would
that's
it be,
improper.
not only would it be improper, this board could vote on it tonight, and a board 10 years from now could undo it.
I tell you, I've lived down there all these years, and I've even, Mr. King, his grandfather, was actually down there overlooking that property too, and would sell that property. We always would love to have a house at the end. And then we wouldn't have to worry about this anymore. Put a house down there, that will close it off, and we'll be done. So,
Have
sit
you,
here and-
have you approached him about purchasing it?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
No, I haven't. It does too. And Mr. King, I have nothing against y'all. I do respect y'all. I know my wife met your grandfather a long time ago, back when the bar was open down by I-40. And we respected him. He came right out and looked at the washouts down there at the end of the street for us. So my heart goes out to you and your family. So, but please, we ask you, if you do sell it to the right people. 1 acre lots would be beautiful. It's not making a drive-through through there. I know we can work something out where it would be beneficial for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Smith, would you like to?
Mayor, if I just may add
Yes.
a note real quick. I have the original plat recorded. It's a temporary turnaround is how it's recorded on the plat, and the cul-de-sac actually goes into the property, so it's not part of the right-of-way. There's not a right-of-way for a true cul-de-sac, just for reference. I tried to pull the plat to make sure that I could understand what was there recorded. Yes, sir, that's correct. That was the intent when it was recorded. Yes, sir.
And how many years ago was that?
73.
How many
Nope,
years
sorry.
ago?
That was how many? 1972 is when it was.
1972, and it's never been addressed.
What do you
That's
mean by it's
interesting.
never been
What's
addressed?
not been
I mean,
addressed?
in 1972, and they haven't done anything else with the road, is that what you're saying?
It was stubbed for future connection is
Yeah,
when they
it-
recorded the plat.
That many years
The
ago.
intent was to attach to it.
But I think the same family still owns the property.
Wouldn't someone have to reapply for something, a subdivision to go in there?
Yes.
They
Again,
will.
as-
That's
as
exactly
what-
what the attorney
that's what
told
they've
us.
ta- Okay,
Yeah.
that's what you've talked about.
Yes, ma'am.
What I'm seeing today is, I mean, I've looked at these parcels a lot. I don't know if anyone's ever offered to buy it, but I have heard someone has offered to buy that property. I thought it was someone in our neighborhood, actually, but not that you can recall. Right? In all these years. Amazing. Oh, it was from your father. I'm so sorry. Okay, it was from your father that I heard about that. And he did not want to sell it. But I see no problem in putting a barrier to the back of the property if necessary, because the property is a part of our neighborhood. I don't know why it went up and why the board voted, and a couple of you on here did vote unanimously to put the barrier up if it was illegal. I don't know why that was. But two of you did vote unanimously, Brandon and Lisa, with the last for this resolution. I do hear a lot of ifs. I know we're dealing right now in the what right now, the things that are happening right now, and right now there's not a deal on the boards. There's not a deal in the plan, because I know that when we came here before, a representative from a developer, I think Ryan Holmes, stood here in place of Mr. King. Mr. King did not come, and a representative stood in his place and talked for him, but and said what they planned to do with that, the parcel behind this triangle. I'm hearing a lot of ifs. Today we're talking about the barrier. I agree with this gentleman, and I'm sorry, I should know exactly what
Mr.
your
Carter?
name. But today, we're talking about the barrier, which isn't there. I can't see a reason why it would not have been, say, put at the back of the property, because the property is right there in our neighborhood. He has a driveway. So to me, the barrier would say, this road cannot go through, but it stops in front of this property. And if it becomes landlocked in the future, to me, we're dealing with ifs again. What if he sold this? What if he sold that? Well, we're saying, what if he sold this? What if he sold that? What happens to this neighborhood?
The reality right now
reality is we're dealing with this triangle.
There's no development, and that is his driveway that you're asking for us to barrier.
I'm not asking for it to barrier. You voted for it. I'm so sorry.
We voted for it when the subdivision was coming in.
Well, you
to
voted
protect
for
your
it.
subdivision.
Honestly,
and now that the
though-
subdivision is not coming in, we cannot block his driveway. And that's
I would
why
not
we're
want his
rescinding it.
driveway blocked.
Okay, then
I
we
would
agree.
not want his driveway blocked with a barrier, no. I would love to see a house and some people at
Then
the
I'm
end of
sure
that
he would love
driveway.
for somebody to
And I
buy it
would
from
love for
him.
him to be able to move in and enjoy our neighborhood, because it's a fine place to live. It really is. Richard, I thought you lived in Prim Springs? And you moved? Oh, and you moved away, though. So,
We're 15 minutes away from the property. We're not moved away.
I know. But are you a resident in Fairview?
No.
You don't vote in Fairview? Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Yes, of course you do. Of course you do.
Okay,
You do
point of
too.
order, we can't
Of
have discussion back and forth.
Of course. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I'm sorry.
Just address the
He
board,
was-
that would be
I
good.
think- Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't know how that works. Yes, the barrier, I can see, there is not a reason to put the barrier in the front of the property. But I could say that there is a reason to put a barrier for the end of the street. You don't call it a barrier, but a stoppage, that this road could not be continued at any time. I can see that. And I can see that his land could appear landlocked if there is a barrier. I can understand that. But his land is not landlocked right now. He says he doesn't have a deal on the table to sell it. So why are we addressing that?
Because we have an open resolution that needs to be rescinded, so we don't have to put the barrier up. That's all this is. It's a
Yeah.
housekeeping measure.
But you cannot just rescind that portion about the barrier? Can someone make a motion to do that?
Believe that's
That's
the
what
motion
we're
before
doing.
us.
To just only recede the barrier at the end of the street, but
that's
still
what
leave
we're
the road
doing.
terminated? Still close the road to future traffic?
So
You can make a motion for that,
his
right?
driveway
We can't make a
is the
motion.
end of that
We
road.
can't make a motion that a future board couldn't change.
Well, sure, because that's what's being attempted now. So that's what I wanted to know.
But based on what Vice Mayor Butler told us, when they built your subdivision, if y'all looked at the plat, when you bought your house, you should know that that was designed to go into the next property.
Is there any statute of limitations on anything like that? Because I know there is when it comes to building. Is there a statute of limitations on something like that? Like they have to have it reapproved?
No, there's no statute of limitations. It doesn't mean that it's automatically going to connect to any new neighborhood or possible neighborhood on that property. And the developer certainly could come in and propose that that be part of the access for their subdivision, and then the city planner would need to make a recommendation, and the planning commission would need to decide how they felt about that, and then and it may come before the Board of Commissioners. The city should not be making a decision on something they don't have to make a decision on presently. All this resolution does is says there's not going to be a barrier there, and the city's not going to spend money on it now. They could decide to do that in the future.
And to make one more point of clarification, I believe if he had been the city attorney at the time, he would not have allowed that to have happened. And we wouldn't be voting on this tonight.
We've got a lot of ifs here tonight, don't we?
Yes, ma'am.
We do.
Since there is no development right now, if he sells this land immediately after this, because there would be two openings, Overby and our driveway. And he sells the property. Then we're back to the situation we were in before, when you voted against our road being open. So are you saying that if he sells this to a developer, and we're back to that same situation, that you will vote for us to close the road when you've already opened it?
If he sells it to a developer, the developers, and they wanted to do more, they want to put a development in, they're going to have to come in with a site plan, and they're going to have to ask the city for permission to connect to city infrastructure, including
And
this.
we've already done that.
Including this possible, well, no, because there's no subdivision proposed for this property.
There was before you came.
I understand there was, but there is not one currently.
But just for clarity, I don't think we never saw a proposal of a subdivision. They asked for annexation. It came with an R40 zoning. There was never a proposal for a subdivision that ever made it to the planning commission or to this board. So
Right.
we never
But we
saw
still
it.
had all these discussions because there was a Ryan Homes that wanted to build there. That's why all this came up. So the fact that, that you're saying that all you want to do today is just quietly open our road, knowing
No,
that,
remove the barrier, not put the barrier up.
okay, but which opens our road?
To
Well, your
whom?
road's open now to Mr. King's
Mr. King's
property.
property, yes.
Yeah.
So, so if we've already done this once within the last 6 months, then we're going to be right back here again. And what are the odds that you're going to open the road or close the road once you've already opened it, or remove the barrier once there is a development in sight?
Well, the
This needs to-
barrier's not up, so we're not removing it.
But yes, but we're talking semantics here. We're talking really not about a piece of metal going up there. We're talking about access
That's what I'm
to
talking
our
about.
road. Okay,
Mayor, if I could just add another,
Yeah.
so it sits as an R40 property right now, you have to have 125 foot of road frontage to get a lot. Since you have a 50-foot right-of-way, Mr. Carter, correct me if I'm wrong, but as it sits right now, they could only build a house on it because of their access, or maybe two because of maybe do an easement or so. If there's any submittal for an R40 development or a rezoning request, it would be come back in front of our staff. And sometimes you don't see, our staff sometimes review things for back and forth for months before it ever even hits the planning commission. Or like in this instance, it never even made it to us based off of whatever discussions that staff reviewed from the submittal that the prior person made. And so things like we're trying to work on a major thoroughfare plan, which is the entire study of all the roads and infrastructure in the city of Fairview. So what are the roads that are failing? What are the culverts that are failing? Where are we going to be impacted? So by accomplishing things like that with our engineering team, when someone submits to our staff an extension to Harding Road, our staff knows Harding Road has a failure here. It needs to be improved. Harding Road shouldn't have through traffic. Harding Road doesn't need this weight. And so our staff will address, review based off the submittal. It may even require a traffic study if there's a certain level of density that's required. So we're kind of, I think that I personally voted off emotion in September and not fact. It probably should have gone to our staff for review and for them to come back and tell us what they thought about it before we voted on it that night. But we would be taking action by shutting it down before it's necessarily time to take action. And so if there ever is a future submittal, our staff will review, our engineers will come and tell us, this is the impact on Harding, this is what needs to be improved if they're going to do this, if you're going to give them access, or we recommend you don't give access because the Harding Road can't take any more of the load. And so those discussions will be had if ever something was submitted for review.
and you can't do that now.
We don't know what's being submitted. We don't know.
It doesn't matter. If
No
you're going
one's
to
asking
put
for
construction of equipment to even just to open the road, you're going to be on our streets. So it seems like you could,
It's a public road.
The road's open now. I don't,
road's closed now.
the barrier's not up. And that's what is being rescinded, is placing a barrier at the end of your, end of
I
Harding.
think, can you read the way it was written before? Because I believe what it said was that our road was closed in perpetuity. I'm pretty sure. and
The
nope.
city shall hereby construct a permanent barrier preventing any and all proposed future connectivity at the existing substreet cul-de-sac of Harding Drive Northwest.
Thank you.
Can I ask one thing before he speaks? There was some mentions earlier of, they may have spoken to his grandfather about buying it. he is willing to sell the property. Is there anybody here that wants to actually purchase that triangle tract? Because if any one of you would purchase that, it would end all future discussion.
Landlock his land.
That won't be a city issue or your issue at that point. He'll have to create his own easement off Overby where the other parcel is. The reason the city's involved is because the city road dead ends into the triangle property. So if anybody bought that one and said they were going to build their one house on it, this issue's dead. Go ahead.
Couple of questions. You reread the motion. I don't remember a barrier being mentioned 6 months ago. We didn't ask for a barrier. We just want the road to dead end there and another house be built. That's what we understood happened. We didn't know anything about a barrier. I didn't.
This is a copy of the resolution from September that I'm reading from.
I just don't remember that then.
Sir.
Let me ask another question. Mr. King owns properties in succession. Are we saying the Board of Commission will allow him to landlock his own property by selling a piece of property between? That doesn't make sense. Why would the Board of Commission allow that? He needs to allow his own access to his next property while he still owns it.
Well, he selling his property doesn't necessarily even come to us.
Only if he subdivides his property into 5-acre lots or less. Him selling his property doesn't require the Board of Commissioners to approve the sale. Also, while residents may want a single-family house on his property, we have property rights, and we can't tell somebody they can only build a single-family house on their property if that's not what the zoning is for the property. And so this whole issue, it comes down to whether the city's going to spend the money to put a barrier across it or not. And if there's a future subdivision proposed for this property, then they're going to have to go through the steps, and they're going to have to request the city for the connection. And the city at that point will need to decide whether they want to connect it or not, or if they are going to connect it, what improvements need to be made to Harding Drive, or whether it can even handle traffic, or whether that even cross-connection is even something the city even wants to consider at that point, and the citizens can have a voice at that point. But tonight, it's just about whether the city's going to spend money for this barrier. And frankly, that resolution shouldn't have been considered, passed by this body in October. Hindsight being 2020, I wasn't here, but it wasn't a good decision at that time, and it's not any better now.
We never asked for a barrier. I don't know where that came in. But are we saying that the Board of Commission would allow him to sell a piece of property without giving access to property he owns behind it? That would landlock his own property. He's got you over a barrel.
I don't think the city has any control over what he sells. I think what we're saying is that we can't prevent the access and put a barrier up at the end of the road there. If he sells something else, and that's their determination of access point, but we can't put a barrier up to prevent.
And you can't force him to give access to his own property before he sells the property.
I do not believe so, no, sir.
So an easement's not the same as having a road.
An easement.
And all that we're talking about now is whether he can use his driveway or not.
Right.
We don't care about him using the driveway.
So for the life of me, I really can't appreciate why we're still discussing this, because this is a barrier that's been proposed across his driveway, and it shouldn't have been passed in October, and it shouldn't be allowed to stand now. Because if you allow it to stand now, then I think you've taken his access, his driveway access, and I think that the city may be held financially responsible for that, quite frankly. If a developer comes in the future and wants to connect to Harding Drive, then there'll be a long discussion at that point. And our planner, hopefully we'll have a certified planner, we'll have something to say about that and make a recommendation. Engineering will have a recommendation. There'll be lots of discussions, but that's not what we're doing tonight. It's not what's proposed. I think the issue tonight is very
please someone make a motion to take the barrier down so he can build a house. And please don't allow him to landlock his own property.
Yes, ma'am.
Just one thing, I feel like there's a misunderstanding. When we were told there would be a barrier, I don't think we meant the city to build a physical structure. What we meant was, in the back of that pizza pie that Mr. King owns, his driveway would still be open in the front. But if a subdivision came on the back of their house would be to the back of Mr. King's land. We never asked for the city to erect a barrier. We thought that two cul-de-sacs would be butting back to back. We never asked for anything to be purchased by the city. That's why we're having this, what are you talking about, a barrier? We didn't ask for a structure to be built. We're not talking about the front of his driveway. We're talking about if a structure came where that yellow thing is highlighted, that the back of the person's yard behind Mr. King's property would butt up to the back of Mr. King's backyard. His front would always be open. There would never be a barrier right there in the end of Harding Drive. There would never be a structure. We're talking about just two subdivisions butting up like this, but the entrances would never go through. We're talking about building anything, blocking the front of his driveway. We want that where it always was. It's the other side. We didn't think we never said, city, will you build something? What was said to us, I thought, by Miss Rainey was, here's two cul-de-sacs that are just going like a figure eight. And they don't drive through. Does that make sense?
That
You've
makes
got
sense,
two
but that's
backyards.
not-
I think
that's
that's
not
what we
what
all
I-
thought was.
That's not what I understood that was.
That's
voted
what
on.
we thought was happening, and I'm sitting here listening to this whole misunderstanding, and I can definitely see, and you know we're not on the city side to go through, but no, we don't want you to pay our tax dollars to build a wall. We don't want to pay our own tax dollars for if you improve our street. We're the ones that are going to have to pay for it when we're on a fixed income. So we don't want to pay for a barrier either. We don't want to pay for anything. That's part of why we don't want the streets. We thought it was just two subdivisions you can't drive through. We would never block off the front of his driveway with a wall, and I think that has caused a little misunderstanding here.
Well, since everybody seems to be on the same page now, I want to make a motion to call the question.
Mayor,
Yes.
I received an email from Ms. Street, who could not be here tonight, and she asked that it be read into the record, and with your permission, I'll read it.
Okay.
Before we vote.
Loudly, please.
Okay. She sent this this morning or this afternoon, March 23rd. Citizens, staff, and board members, first I want to apologize for not being able to attend the previous meeting and this meeting. I will be back for the April 6th BOC meeting. I wish to provide some specifics in my opinion on item C of new business. C, Resolution 2023, a resolution of the City of Fairview to rescind Resolution 3122 and open Harding Drive northwest at the existing Stubbs Street cul-de-sac to allow for future connectivity. I attended this meeting as a citizen supporting my fellow citizens. I was very proud of the way they presented their information by speaking about the impact on the neighborhood, the emotional toll the traffic would create to the citizens in the subdivision, and finally, the facts that were brought to your attention. A decision was made on September 15th, 2022. B, Resolution 3122, a resolution of the City of Fairview to permanently terminate Harding Drive Northwest at the existing Stubb Street cul-de-sac. A vote of 5-0 in favor to permanently terminate Harding Drive Northwest at the existing Stubb Street cul-de-sac. Whether you were on the board or not, there were promises made and a resolution created and voted in favor of. Therefore, the resolution should not be rescinded and should be followed. Bringing this back up has already, in my opinion, caused distrust and displays extreme lack of support for our citizens. The development cited has road frontage on Overby Drive Road. The developer needs to use their own road access to complete their development. I don't want this for Overby Road residents, but this development was voted on and approved by the BOC. Why vote in favor of the citizens' right before the election and now rescind the resolution? This action would further damage trust from the citizens of Fairview, and actions speak louder than words. Voting to rescind Resolution 3122 will, in my opinion, completely lose their trust in the BOC that may possibly never be regained or could take many years to repair. This is not a way to rebuild the citizens' trust. It displays support for developers over the wishes of the people. We work for the citizens and not the developers. By allowing the resolution to be rescinded, we are not allowing one road and the residences on it to be physically and emotionally damaged, but will be unnecessarily negatively impacting the existing subdivision. Why would we allow this? Why are we still passing items that the citizens truly do not want? Finally, every time we sit in the BOC seats, we need to remember we work for citizens. Thank you for your time, Leslie.
Can you come forward?
Rescind this resolution, if you vote to rescind this resolution, it also, is there a way to not rescind the part that talks about permanently terminating Harding? Because that's all we wanted. We never wanted a barrier. We never asked for a barrier. But, so, I'm just asking, you have to rescind the whole thing? Because did we talk about barrier in the first resolution? It said barrier, well, anyway.
That's what, Brandon, can you?
He just, Commissioner Butler just read it, the heading or I don't know if it's the body of it, but the heading of it. It said, and what the vote was to permanently terminate Harding Drive. And so we're agreeing on a barrier we never knew there was going to be one. But I just wonder if that's going to, you have to rescind that part too?
What we've heard from the attorney is that it's not necessarily legal because a future board could come in and change it. So it's not permanent and it's definitely not in perpetuity.
So when the previous, well, that's more than one question.
You can ask your question.
When the previous board voted to permanently close it, that was not legal to do, is that right?
I think it was ill-advised. Many reasons.
I would not go as far as to say illegal, because what we were trying to do is protect, and I've always thought that we voted to put a physical barrier. And if I misunderstood, then I misunderstood, but the rescinding part of this is not putting up that physical barrier.
And when I use the word illegal, I don't mean that these two or the other three that were on the board did anything that was actually illegal, but in legal terms, I don't know that you could do something that ties the hands of a future board should it meet all the requirements, come through the planning commission and come back to the board, and something else changes in the
That's why I
future.
used the term ill-advised and not illegal. I was using
So
ill-advised.
I apologize for using that word.
Intentionally. Even if the city were to say this road is will permanently terminate, it doesn't really change that a developer could come in and then ask to connect to the road. This board can't say that it can never be open. Won't be binding on future boards. So we need to have this discussion when there's a proposal and a site plan for this property, if there ever is one, and then the city will need to decide whether it's a good idea to connect it or not. One of those things will be what the developer wants. The developer may not want to connect to the subdivision at all for various reasons, or they may. The city may look, it depends on traffic. So if there's a traffic issue and they want to create thorough access, that may be something the city considers, or fire access, or police access, or any number of considerations. But those aren't on the agenda tonight. This property is not being developed. It's bad leadership to be making what happened in October, saying this road was permanently closed, was, I would say it was probably bad guidance and not good leadership for that to have been passed the way it was passed, because it is not binding on future boards. And really gives the impression to the citizens that they have something that they really don't have. So all I know tonight is if this resolution is rescinded, the effect of it is going to be no barrier. And if there's ever a plan in the future for this property, then it can be discussed then. And I don't know whether it's a good idea or not to connect. Sounds like the citizens have a lot of reasons that it won't be a good idea, and I'm sure those will be considered if there's ever a plan for this property. But that discussion is premature, and it was premature in October.
Sorry. One thing I don't understand, I don't know about this or understand it. It says resolution number 31 through 22. And it says a resolution to the city of Fairview at the top of it. And then on down it says, be it further resolved. And then it says, again, be it further resolved. Can any one of those extra two resolves be motioned into non-existence or voted into non-existence? When it says a resolution at the top, and then it says be it further resolved, I don't understand the numbers, I guess, 31 through 22.
It's actually
Is that
just a hyphen.
paragraph's number?
It's 31 hyphen 22.
Pardon?
It's not through 22, it's just a hyphen.
It's item, like, say the item number's 31 and then the year's 22.
Okay, is that how it is?
Yeah,
So this
like
whole
30.
thing, you can't rescind the be it further resolved statements. You can't can you rescind certain statements in this resolution?
You could, but our attorney is advising us to do away with the entire thing based on what he just stated.
Yeah, okay. Well, I just wondered, I know he was, but I was just asking if it could be separated and taken away that way.
The BOC want to do that, they certainly have the power to do it. Whether it's advisable or not is a different issue.
They do have the power to do it. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Carter, I have one question. Where it says Harding Drive shall be open to proposed future connectivity. When we rescind this, does that rescind that particular statement?
Are you looking at 2023?
3122.
Not the resolution for tonight?
Yeah. Resolution 2023.
Are you looking at resolution 2023, Commissioner Hall? Right here? Okay. So that's what we're voting on tonight. So
When we vote to rescind it, does that take that away too?
Absolutely.
No, it doesn't rescind, it doesn't rescind
I
that.
think
It's
that
all
there
it's saying
is-
is that we're not going to build the barrier and it shall remain open to propose future connectivity. So someone can come and propose it. It doesn't mean that it's going to happen or that it will even be advisable at that time.
Okay, so
But if we're not
future
going
thing and not tonight
Yeah.
thing.
It doesn't mean that there is future connectivity. It just means that there can be proposed future connectivity, and the city will need to decide on it at that time, and whether it's a good idea or not, which I don't know. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a planner. All I know is at this point, we've said no future connectivity, and we're going to have a barrier across that, and that was probably not, that was ill-advised in October. And what we've done is if we don't rescind it, then we've blocked this man's driveway. And I understand the citizens didn't know anything about a barrier, but that's what the city did.
I think there's
So-
confusion there because I thought there was a
Mayor, I made a motion to call the question.
You read Commissioner Street's letter. Did it mention a barrier?
I read it just like she sent it, so.
Just asking if it mentioned a barrier.
You all
Commissioner
heard it.
Street wasn't on the board when
So-
this was voted in, so I don't know. I don't know if she was confused like I think some of us are that.
I don't think it was mentioned.
I don't remember a barrier being mentioned in what he read.
Is there any other discussion? Ms. Johnson, oh my gosh, if I did, I'm so sorry. What is wrong with me?
Commissioner Johnson,
Sorry.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Butler,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Mayor Anderson.
Aye. Johnson Butler, motion passes 4-0. Item 10D, first reading of ordinance 2023-02, an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of the city of Fairview, Tennessee by rezoning 3.97 acres of property located at 1327 Highway 96 North, consisting of Williamson County Tax Map 018, parcel 029.00, from CG Commercial General to RM20 Multifamily Residential. Property owners Brian Spicer, Ken Carger, and Tim Mangrum. Do you have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Mr. Mangrum, would you like to tell us about your project?
Yes, ma'am. We are wanting to build condos, would be our plan for this. We think it's a great location, being proximity to the interstate. We're hoping to get somewhere around 75 on here if we can get the zoning approved. We've had some initial discussions with staff, some very preliminary discussions with fire department. We would just ask for your consideration for this rezoning.
Any discussion?
Mayor, I'll just add some notes. It was a 8-1 favorable positive recommendation from the Planning Commission. It's surrounded by industrial and commercial zone properties right now, and then there's an RM20 across the street. The future use map identifies it as an interchange business employment district, which is a higher use or higher density area.
Standard of review for this item is just a rational basis. So as long as you have a rational reason, you can vote yes or no. Of course, the city wants to, you'd want to consider the 2040 plan, the future growth plan, and whether there's a good plan of services and the city can serve the property. So just things to keep in mind when you vote in its first reading. So if you vote to approve it, it has to come back for a second reading.
Any other discussion? Ms. Jones, would you please call the roll, please?
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Butler,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Mayor Anderson.
Aye. Item
Thank you.
10D passes. Johnson Butler, 4-0. Item 10E, Resolution 21-23, a resolution of the City of Fairview Board of Commissioners authorizing the police chief to enter into a contract with Axon Enterprise Incorporated for the purchase of new tasers. Chief
Move for
Humphreys.
approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Jones?
Mayor, if I will, just a quick question. Chief, is this replacing any kind of current contractor services that we have with tasers, or is this a new expense with new equipment? Do we have any kind of current?
Right, it is.
recurring?
Our tasers that we have currently are under contract, and when you enter into contract with anything technological taser, there's more than just the hardware. It's the software that goes with it, all the support services that goes with that. We're 5 years into our old tasers. We've been on a contract which ends now in this budget cycle. Taser has come up with a new taser, and I do apologize for us kind of thrusting this on y'all yesterday. We wanted a chance to vet that product first, and we were able to do that Monday of this week. And then we also wanted to get the contract done if possible, so we could be one of the first recipients of that distribution, because when we went into with Axon on the car cameras, we had a 10-month window that we fought with them until they moved up to 4 months. So we were trying to get on the front side of that as we entered into new contract. With the old tasers, we would have to extend a contract with them. Even though the hardware device was out of date, we would extend warranty and service plan of that and their IT services. This was a far superior product, and the previous purchase through that, what Taser does, they bundle everything. They make it easy for an agency to purchase by breaking that into a 5-year plan instead of this one lump sum purchase.
The money's coming from the drug fund, correct?
It is, and we purchased it historically through the drug fund. It's not operational cost for taxpayers. We did that through our drug fund, which is our intent to do this also through the drug fund and continue this contract with them for the new tasers they've developed.
Thank you, sir.
Any other discussion?
Thank you.
Commissioner
Ms. Jones?
Johnson?
Aye.
Commissioner Hall?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Butler?
Aye.
Mayor Anderson?
Aye. 10E passes. Johnson, Hall, 4-0. Item 11, communication from mayor and commissioners. Commissioner Hall?
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate everybody coming out tonight. It was very enlightful. I wasn't here the first go-around, but the way I see it, the only thing is that the gentleman still got a chance for his driveway, and y'all were acceptable to that. The next thing I'd like to say, I am on the park board. One thing that's come up recently on our parks is one piece of property at Elrod Road in Northwest and Dice Lampley. Several acres out there that belong to the city, and originally that was proposed for a park. We've also found out since then that it's a wet area over there on the lower part down by the pond over there. My suggestion, and just wanted to bring it out, and this is nothing permanent that has to be done right now, I would like to see a handicap park in this town for people to be able to go with the wheelchairs, the motorized vehicles, the walkers, and not be disturbed by a lot of other traffic, just basically strictly for the handicapped people, whether it be the elderly, whether it be the young, and the ages in between. That would be a good area to at least, very expensive to put a paved track around there with a gravel parking. We couldn't afford right now to put in bathrooms, but we could always rent handicap porta-johns if necessary. But that's one thing that I would like to see happen in the future, and Mr. Rowley is on that board, and she's very receptive to that if we can proceed to get that done. The next thing that I'm on the GNRC board, there's possibly another chance that we can pursue a farmer's market grant from the USDA, and so hopefully I can forward that and get that put out at the historical village area out there. We have the land out there to do it with, and it was an original proposal for the historical park out there to do that at the Triangle School area. Other than that, that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to the citizens that were here this evening, those of you that are still here and the ones that have already left. I think we finally got on the same page at the end, and I can tell you that none of the four of us or the other one that's not here, Commissioner Street, nobody is doing anything sinister and getting ready to approve a subdivision or approve a road or anything. To my knowledge, this is the first time I've ever had contact with the King family about this property. Not sure why things happened back in October the way they did, but it needed to be undone based on what our legal counsel was telling us. So thank you all very much.
Vice Mayor Butler?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for everyone coming out tonight. And we do want to say thank you to Mike and Kevin for their years of service and the positive impact they've left on Fairview and the future of planning. And then just more of a question, we are here next week for a town hall, is that correct? March 30th?
We, did we put out that we were postponing that because we moved this meeting?
We never, I don't think we ever actually advertised for that. We was canceled before. You had told me, since we were moving the March 16th meeting to the 23rd, that it hadn't been time to advertise that in the paper yet.
Commissioner Street is still out that meeting, and because we had to move this meeting from spring break to this week, we chose to do the next fifth Thursday. It would be June 29th. June 29th will be our town hall.
Mayor, nothing further.
I want to thank everyone for coming out as well. Whatever we have to do to hear our citizens, I'm good with that. So if we need to suspend the rules to let everyone talk, and I think it helped us to understand, it helped me, because I feel like, I thought one thing and maybe, there's a little confusion. So I feel like, it was, the confusion was taken care of. And, we just want to be fair to everyone. Your subdivision, the Kings, and, that's what we're here to do, is try to take care of all the citizens. I want to congratulate Sarah Toddy on being our new city engineer. And thank you, Mr. Carter, for always speaking up and helping us to understand each item that we're discussing. Mr. Daugherty, thank you for, keeping us on track, and Ms. Jones as well. And I apologize. I kept writing Johnson down for Commissioner Johnson when he would make a motion, and that's where that came from. So anyway, like I always say, let's all work together to keep Fairview beautiful. I think that we have a great city with a lot of potential, and we just want to keep it clean, and we'll pick up trash instead of throwing it out. And everybody have a great week, and I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. So moved. We're adjourned.